Site of AKS IAS Academy. About me, I am Sandeep Bhushan Thumala, and my credentials are I have 10 years of teaching experience and I teach international relations and internal security and also the analysis of the Hindu newspaper. And this session will definitely help you to crack prelims and mains examinations, because throughout my session I would be emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases. So the keywords and the key phrases which I would be emphasizing would be certainly important for you to identify the factual, analytical and conceptual questions for the preliminary examinations, and it will also be useful for the answer writing, that is in the mains examinations. Once you get into the mode of imbibing the keywords and the key phrases in your answer writing, definitely your answers would be precise and concise, and once your answers are precise and concise, you will certainly score higher marks in the mains examinations. So therefore my sessions will be definitely useful for you both for prelims and mains examinations. So do follow my daily news analysis at AKS IAS Academy, and it will be useful for 2020 as well as 2021. And now we will take up the DNA, that is daily news analysis of 1st of October 2020. And before we get into the topic, I would just look at the quote of the day, and the quote of the day is, your best teacher is your last mistake. So no doubt it is the parents, it is the teachers and it is the society which teaches you, but the best teachers among them is your last mistake. So do learn from your mistake and make sure that you are not committing the mistakes once again, and that is your last mistake is certainly your best teacher. And I would say a very good morning to all who are in the live and also in the live chat. A warm welcome to Lokesh and D. Suvarna to AKS IAS Academy Daily News Analysis. And the news for the day is Advani and 31 others have been acquitted in Babri Masjid case. That means they have been proved that they are not guilty in the demolition of the Babri Masjid case, which has been taken place 28 years back on December 6, 1992. And the special CBI court, the keyword here is not the Supreme Court, it is the special CBI court, has acquitted L.K. Advani and also the former Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Kalyan Singh and others, that is Murli Manohar Joshi and various others, that is overall 32 of them have been acquitted, because the special CBI court makes it very clear that there is lack of credible evidence. Because of the lack of credible evidence which has been proved, which has been tabled by the CBI, has been made it very clear that the one who have been framed that they are guilty in the Babri Masjid, the special CBI court has acquitted them. So the one is acquitted, the keyword is acquitted, everyone. And the court has rejected, please do keep it in mind, the court has rejected the charges of criminal conspiracy. So the CBI has leveled the criminal charges or charges of criminal conspiracy against various people or the bigwigs or the BJP leaders also, or the former Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister. But the court has rejected the entire charges which were leveled by CBI against the accused in regards to framing a charges, that is the criminal conspiracy, have been rejected, because the charge sheet they felt, that is the special CBI court felt that they did not have any evidence to show that they got together in common intent. That means the special CBI court has made it very clear that the proofs or the evidence by the CBI is not having any kind of proof that all the one that is who were involved in the criminal conspiracy, as per the special CBI code, it says that they did not get together in common intent with a group to bring down the mosque. So it is very clear by the special CBI court when it has pronounced and it has acquitted Advani and 31 others that they are not found guilty. It clearly shows that they were all together, not having a common intent to bring down or demolish the Babri Masjid on December 6, 1992. And the court said that the 2300 page verdict, that evidence submitted, which was submitted by the CBI, and the evidence were all submitted by CBI to the special CBI court in the form of the evidence by the CBI was in the form of newspaper clippings, video cassettes, tapes, printed material, speeches and witness testimonies. But all this, the special CBI court says that it lacked the evidence and the group did not have any intent to come together and then bring down or demolish the Babri Masjid gate. And the court says that there is no moment when the accused person gathered in a room as per the evidence which was shown by the CBI to the special CBI court. It says that there is no moment that the entire group has come together and they were in a room to plan the scheme of demolish this structure. So the entire evidence which has been proved, which has been submitted, not proved, which has been submitted by the CBI to the special CBI court has been put down. And the special judge of the special CBI court, that is SK Yadav, says that none of the witness has clearly named any accused to say they were demolishing the disputed structure. So based on this, the special judge, that is SK Yadav, on behalf of the special CBI court, has announced a judgment that all the one who were framed in regards to the conspiracy charges were acquitted. So this is, the case has been heard after 28 years, that is on December 6, 1992 when the incident has taken place, and after 28 years the special CBI court says that there is lack of credible evidence. There is lack of credible evidence against the criminal conspiracy on various others who were involved as per the CBI, not me, as per the CBI, where they say they were involved in bringing down the Babri Masjid case. So now we'll get to the next topic, that is the cinema halls and the theme parks allowed to open. So this is the one which is again a part of the unlock system, wherein we need to get along with the economic activity, making sure that we work or we work to that instance wherein we are all working together to contain or to break the chain of SARS-CoV-2. So for that, again the Ministry of Home Affairs have issued the guidelines, for reopening of cinema halls and entertainment parks, and also the swimming pools for the sports persons. And this, the Ministry of Home Affairs have given the states, the flexibility in regards to deciding whether they can open the schools after October 15. So in regards to the Ministry of Home Affairs have come up with the guidelines for reopening of the cinema halls and entertainment parks and swimming pools. But in regards to the schools, to reopen the schools from October 15, the Ministry of Home Affairs had given the states the flexibility to decide whether they wanted to reopen the schools based on the situation, based on the report, or based on the kind of statements which they have collected from the parents and various other organizations. And the Ministry of Home Affairs makes it very clear the higher education institutions which are pertaining to the science and technology stream and which are again in regards to the research scholar and postgraduate students, they need to, wherein they wanted to access the laboratory, they will be permitted to open from October 15th. So in regards to the higher education, especially in regards to the science and technology, and the one who are in the research scholars and the postgraduate students are permitted, they can attend the or have access to the laboratory from October 15th, and the guidelines will come into effect from October 1st, that is today. And they have removed all the restrictions. They have removed all the restrictions in the domestic flights except the international air travel. Still you have restrictions imposed on the international air travels. So before I get into the next slide, L. Gandhi, Manu, Manohar, Madhu, Ravi Babu, Gopinayak, all of you, a warm welcome to AKS IAS Academy Daily News Analysis. And in regards to the international flights, as we have seen that there is certainly a restriction in regards to international flights, and the international flights would be into operations, under the scheme called as air bubble scheme. So this is a keyword. Please do follow this for UPSC prelims perspective and a better understanding about how the entire international flights are being taken up. That is in regards to the flights being taken up, so that it will be considering the COVID-19 guidelines. And air bubble scheme, what does this air bubble scheme means? It is a stage short of normal civil aviation activities. So whenever there is normal situation, and in that normal situation the kind of activities which take place in regards to the civil aviation which is normal, but now in this situation at the COVID-19 pandemic situation, and wherein they have to adhere to the guidelines, this will be a little shorter, a stage will be little shorter, and this will be discussed between India and various other countries, how they have to go ahead with the number of flights which have to take place between both the countries, flying between both the countries, and that scheme is the air bubble scheme. Sorry. And it will be in regards to the flights will be taken up under air bubble scheme, and the second one is Vande Mataram or Vande Bharat mission. So definitely the two schemes or the missions will be taken into consideration in regards to the limited or the flights, international flights, the activity which will be taken up, air bubble scheme and Vande Bharat mission. And the guidelines issued will be certainly under the Disaster Management Act 2005. This is a keyword. So all the guidelines are pertaining to as per the Disaster Management Act 2005, that the movement in regards to the trains and flights, how it has to continue, and it will continue, or it will, the movement of the trains and flights will take place, or it will start and progress, but it will be under the as per the standard operating procedures. Again, Disaster Management Act 2005, which it is in place, and the guidelines would be as per the standard operating procedures under the Disaster Management Act 2005 in regards to the movement of the passenger trains and the domestic flights. In regards to the passenger trains and domestic flights. And definitely a lockdown will be continued to be enforced in the containment zone. So definitely the lockdown in regards to the containment zones are still into effect up till October 31st. And in regards to the reopening of the schools and the coaching institutions, the Ministry of Home Affairs have given the flexibility, or it has empowered the states and union territory governments to take up the case as per the situation in regards to various states. So the flexibility is now on to the, or else the onus is on to the state governments and the union governments to decide or take a decision whether they can reopen the schools and the coaching institutions after 15th October 2020. 2020 and the decision shall be taken in consultation. Please look here, the onus is not completely on the state and union territory governments in regards to the reopening of the school and coaching institutions, but it will be in consultation. That means it will discuss, or it should discuss, with the respective schools or institution management, and based on their assessment of the situation, then the state government or the union territory government can take a decision in regards to the reopening of the schools and the coaching institutions after 15th October. And this is added to the consultation with the respective schools or the institution management. Here in this case, if the students do not wish to come back to school, if the students do not wish to come back to the schools, or the students are preferring to attend the online classes rather than physically attend the school, they may be permitted to do so. That means the students have the liberty to choose between whether they can physically attend the classes in the school or they can attend the online classes. So this is in regards to the entertainment parks or the cinema halls and the swimming pools, which will be open after 15th, or the reopening guidelines have been put forth by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and in regards to the reopening of the school, the states have the flexibility to decide after October 15th. And you have another news in regards to the crime against scheduled tribes saw 26% rise, and this is as per the National Crime Records Bureau, and this is also crucial information to you all as a civil servant aspirants, so that it can be part of your short notes for the mains answer writing. So the mains answer writing, it will be useful. So I made it very clear in the past also, all the reports, you need to keep a track of all the reports which are definitely useful for the UPSC prelims and mains point of view. And this is an annual crime, according to the annual crime in India 2019, according to the annual crime in India 2019 report has been published by the National Crime Records Bureau, NCRB, and this NCRB has come up with a report especially focusing on, in this report, that is the crime against the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, it is very clear that the crimes against the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes have seen an increase in 2019, and especially in regards to the SCs or the scheduled caste, the increase is 7%, and in regards to the STs, that is scheduled tribes, the increase is 26%, comparing it with the 2008 figures with 2019 statistics. So it is very clear that the crime against these scheduled tribes is 26% increase compared to 2018 to 2019, and in regards to the scheduled caste, it is 7% increase compared to 2018 to 2019. And if you look at the number, it is 45,935 cases which have been registered that committing crimes against the scheduled caste, which we said that it is around 7.3%, comparing it with the 2018. And in 2018 the crimes committed against the scheduled caste was 42,793, but if you look at 2019 it is 45,973. that is the surge or increase of 7.3% comparing with 2018 to 2019 report. And in regards to the states which are recording the highest number of crimes against the scheduled caste, is the first is Uttar Pradesh, and the next is Rajasthan, and the third stands Bihar's third is standing at the third, or it is at the third. So Uttar Pradesh with 11,000, and then Rajasthan with 6,000 cases, and then Bihar with 6,544. So this is the report or the statistics being mentioned by the NCRB report. So do take it into consideration that this could be an valuable information and a critical information in regards to the mains 2020. And before I get to the next slides, I would just read to what Lavanya P has put forward. Good morning, sir. Where will get PDF of this DNS? Okay, you can just Lavanya, you can talk to the AKS IAS Academy website. You can log in, or you can call up the AKS IAS Academy also. Prithviraj, a warm welcome to you to AKS IAS Academy Daily News Analysis. I'm Madhu. I said role of NCSC, National Commission on Scheduled Caste and National Commission on Scheduled Tribes in this regard. Yes, definitely. So when we are talking, yes, that is very good, important thing also, Madhu. So when we are looking at the crime, that is the data, you need to also look at the commission. That is National Commission on Scheduled Caste and National Commissions on Scheduled Tribes, which again you focus this in regards to the polity. From polity point of view, there could be a question again in regards to the SCs and STs, the National Commission, when it was set up, and who is the one who is heading the SC National Commission and ST National Commission. So you need to again look into it from the UPSC prelims perspective in regards to the polity. And if you look at the STs, 2018, the number of cases compared to the 2019, if you look at, it has increased to 26.5%, and 8,257 cases are the one which have been registered, the crimes against the STs in 2019, and in 2018 the number of cases against the STs is 6,528. So therefore the number of percentage of case increase in regards to STs comparing it with the 2018 to 2019 is 26.5%. And if you look at the crime against the STs, which state records the highest number of cases against the STs is Madhya Pradesh stands first, and then it is Rajasthan, and then Odisha. In regards to SCs, it is Uttar Pradesh, and then Rajasthan and Bihar. UP, Rajasthan and Bihar. UP, Rajasthan and Bihar in regards to the SC. And if you compare it with in regards to the STs, it is Madhya Pradesh, it is Rajasthan, and it is Odisha. This is in regards to the STs. And now we have looked at the overall crimes against SCs and STs. Now as per the NCRB report also, we will look at the statistics in regards to the rape cases, that is rape of women, especially in regards to the SCs and STs. The NCRB has also come up with the statistics in regards to that. That is, we can also look at this information in regards to the mains examination, that is social issues, or women, in regards to women empowerment. When we are talking about how women empowerment, when we are talking about what is that the women are method in regards to, especially focusing on the SC women, that they are brutally raped. And no doubt we have seen just couple of days back also in UP, we have seen a young female was also in the same process and she has succumbed to death. So definitely this is a cause of concern, and in regards to the UPSC mains point of view, you can also focus this in regards to the women issues or women issues. And the number of rape of women belonging to SCs, if you look at, the Rajasthan tops the list, and then followed by Uttar Pradesh, and then the third is Madhya Pradesh. And if you focus the rape of tribal women, that is STs, the highest has been registered in Madhya Pradesh. So this information or the statistics is crucial, so that you will have a better understanding from prelims as well as mains perspective, and you can add the statistics or the data as a short notes in regards to your mains examination. And you can also certainly add the role of the National Commission of Scheduled Caste and the National Commission of Scheduled Tribes in your short notes, and also the Parliamentary Standing Committee, if it is providing any information or recommendation to the Parliament. Also Standing Committee, I am talking about the Standing Committee, you can also recommend those standing committees recommendation in regards to SCs, STs in your answer through the short notes. And you have another news which talks about German Chancellor accuses China. So German Chancellor, that is Angela Merkel, is definitely accusing and raising a concern against China. It is in particular to the minorities, that is how the minorities and the poor are cruelly treated in China. So that is the accused by the German Chancellor against China in regards to the cruel treatment of minorities. So it has accused China in regards to the poor and cruel treatment of minorities, and German Chancellor has underlined, she has underscored, she has raised deep concerns. She has raised deep concerns over not only in regards to minorities but in regards to the crackdown on dissent in Hong Kong. So she is very clearly specifying about the minorities and the crackdown on dissent or the voice in Hong Kong by the citizens of Hong Kong against the Chinese government. That is, Merkel has definitely vowed to bring up or to highlight the rights issues, and Germany is definitely worried about the situation what it is prevailing now, that is the former British colony. Which is the former British colony? Hong Kong. Hong Kong is the former British colony, and the scenario, the situation which is prompting the German Chancellor to raise the issue in regards to the situation which has been prevailed in Hong Kong is also a cause of concern. And definitely Germany is at the principle of one country, two system, but it says that again and again it cannot be undermined. So it is very well clearly set up with a mind that it is worried about the crackdown on the voice or the expression, the voice, the dissent is being not accepted by German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and Germany now currently holds the rotating presidency of European Union. So definitely it will have a point to raise against China in regards to minorities and in regards to the crackdown on dissent in Hong Kong. So this is again very important in regards to the way China is trying to exhibit its hegemony onto the minorities and onto the Hong Kong and also Taiwan, we have seen. And there are 1 million ethnic Uyghurs. They are ethnic Muslim minorities. Uyghurs. You pronounce it as Uyghurs. Uyghurs. And other minorities which they were all put in an internment camps to undergo political indoctrination, and this is point according to the rights group and various experts. They make it very clear that China government or Chinese government has put in almost 1 million ethnic Uyghurs and other minorities in an internment camps so that they can undergo political indoctrination. And what China insists is that these camps, that is internment camps, are training centers. China is saying that these internment camps are training centers which they wanted to provide education, which they would provide education to reduce the allure of Islamic radicalism. So China says that these ethnic Muslim minorities, that is Uyghurs, are being allured in regards to Islamic radicalization. So to nullify the Uyghurs getting allured or getting attracted to Islamic radicalization, so thereby China says that these camps are actually the training centers to provide education to reduce the attract of ethnic Uyghurs towards the Islamic radicalization. And Beijing is also under fire over the security law. We have seen that the new security law which has been imposed in Hong Kong by the Beijing, so that it will have its control which will be fortified, which will be increased over the financial hub, that is Hong Kong. And they will definitely now get into the mode of brutal crackdown on the dissent or the voices by the citizens of Hong Kong against the Chinese government. That is why they have come up with new security law recently itself. That is also why China is under fire by various countries across the globe. And Hong Kong, definitely, as we have seen that Hong Kong was a British colony or former British colony, and when the British colony Hong Kong was handed over to China, British has given an assurance to Hong Kong that it will have a guaranteed autonomy. This is a key word, that Hong Kong will have a guaranteed autonomy under one country two system, under one country two system deal, which was agreed in the year 1997 when Britain has handed over Hong Kong to China. In 1997, Britain has handed over Hong Kong to China. Why? Because Hong Kong was under the colony of British for, or it has taken the lease for 100 years. So it has almost for 100 years, and then afterwards it has handed over back to China in the year 1997. And there is another news which talks about the kind of rift which is happening between two nations, that is Armenia and Azerbaijan. So please do understand, in regards to the international relations, you need to keep a track of what is happening in various parts of the world, especially in regards to whether it could be in regards to the diplomacy, it could be in regards to the diplomacy, that is in regards to the talks, or in regards to the warlike situation. So you need to keep a track of it, because we have seen recently Turkey and Greece, there was a tension in the Mediterranean Sea, wherein Turkey has sent its research ship to go ahead with finding the natural gas in the Mediterranean Sea, which again Greece has raised a concern that it was very close to its island. So there was a tension again in the Mediterranean Sea, and now again there is certainly a tension between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So we will look at where is Armenia and Azerbaijan, and also what is the issue. So definitely Armenia and Azerbaijan, they both have been fighting for almost 4 days, and they are definitely not in a mood to listen or to adhere or to accept any international calls for the negotiation between Armenia and Azerbaijan, that they will settle the issue for the clashes which has started 4 days back. And these clashes have started because of a disputed area called as Nagorno-Karabakh region. So there is a region between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and that is called as Nagorno-Karabakh. So for this region, which is a disputed region, both have again started fighting, and the worry is that the fight has engaged, or the forces between Armenia and Azerbaijan have engaged in the heaviest fighting over years between both the countries, and this is a worry because it might lead to a full-fledged warlike situation. That is why there were international calls for negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan in regards to the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region, so that it will not blow out as a full warlike situation. And this, we have seen, the Karabakh is an ethnic Armenian province. It is an ethnic Armenian province which has broke away from Azerbaijan in the year 1990s, when in the year 1990s we have seen that the collapse of the Soviet Union, USSR. So in the midst of the, or else when the Soviet Union collapse has taken place, the Karabakh, that is the ethnic Armenian province, has broken away from the Azerbaijan, and they are now part of the disputed area between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And Baku and Yerevan, that is both these capital cities or both the states, have ignored the mounting international pressure. Why the international pressure has been mounting on both the countries? Because they wanted a kind of ceasefire. That means they wanted the fighting to be stopped, because there is a fear which is growing that this conflict could escalate in a all-out war-like situation, which might bring in the regional powers like Turkey and Russia in the entire fighting situation. Then it will blow out for a all-out war, and that is the concern why the many countries internationally, they are putting pressure onto the Armenia and Azerbaijan so that they will adhere to the negotiations, and then there would be a ceasefire between both the countries. And now when we look at Russia and Turkey, might be, that is the regional powers, Russia and Turkey might get or might definitely support each other, because if you look at Moscow has a military pact with Armenia. Moscow has a military pact with Armenia. That means a close coordinated understanding is definitely bilaterally, definitely between Moscow or else Russia and Armenia. And also Russia also maintains good ties with Azerbaijan, and which has called for an end, and it wanted to host negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Which one? Russia. And if you look at now, the another regional power is Turkey. Now Turkey has made it very clear that it is fully ready to help Azerbaijan. So look at it, Moscow has a military pact with Armenia. Turkey is fully ready to help Azerbaijan. Why it is fully ready to help Azerbaijan? Because it wanted to help Azerbaijan to recover Nagorno-Karabakh, which is a disputed region between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So Turkey is ready to fully support Azerbaijan to recover the disputed into the Azerbaijan territory, the disputed one, that is Nagorno-Karabakh. And then Yerevan, that is the capital of Armenia, is claiming that Turkey, which is an ally of Azerbaijan, is definitely providing direct military support for Baku, that is to Azerbaijan. So it is very clear that some way or the other, virtually or directly, Turkey is supporting Armenia, that is Turkey is supporting Azerbaijan, so that it can make sure that the disputed area, that is Nagorno-Karabakh, can be into the territory of Azerbaijan. And we also have a little bit of understanding that Moscow or the Russia is having military pact and has support to Armenia, even though it has good ties with Azerbaijan. And definitely Armenia is raising a concern that it wanted to resolve the issue, and it is the Turkey which is actually supporting the Azerbaijan. And you have Turkey's F-16 fighter jet which has downed an Armenian warplane. So it has gunned down the Armenian Su-25 warplane, and this is again escalating the situation to worsen between Armenia and Azerbaijan, wherein Armenia now very clearly states that Turkey is providing military support to Azerbaijan. And in turn now, France has definitely condemned the way Turkey is supporting Azerbaijan. That is, French President Emmanuel Macron has condemned the Turkey's reckless and dangerous statement. That is what dangerous statement? That it is fully ready to help Azerbaijan. That is a dangerous statement being made against the Armenian, that Azerbaijan will be in a position to recover Nagorno-Karabakh with the help of Turkey. So French president is against the Turkey's reckless and dangerous statement, And Russia has also called on Turkey to stop proclaiming support for Azerbaijan, and Russia is wanting Turkey to come up with a diplomatic solution to end the conflict and to have a ceasefire, and the disputed region would be settled through a diplomatic solution. So definitely France and Russia is not really wanting the kind of full blown out warlike situation to take up in Armenia and Azerbaijan, but there should be a situation that is a diplomatic solution should be worked out to end the conflict in the West Asian region between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Rama Naidu has joined. A warm welcome to you, Rama Naidu, to AKS IAS Academy Daily News Analysis. And now we will look at the image, that is wherein you will have a better understanding where is this Armenia and Azerbaijan. So you have Caspian Sea here. So Saudi Arabia you have, and you have here Egypt, and then Caspian Sea. This is Caspian Sea, and then further towards, you have north of Turkey, you have the Black Sea. This is the Black Sea. Fine. So definitely this area, which was part of USSR before 1990s, so Azerbaijan and then Armenia. So both have been split post USSR collapse, and this area is the one which is Azerbaijan controlled territory, and the rest of the area is Armenian controlled territory, and this is the disputed one, and this is again part of Azerbaijan. This is part of Azerbaijan, which is called as Nakhchivan, and you have Iran here, Caspian Sea. You have the Turkey, which is bordering Armenia. You have Georgia, which is bordering Armenia and also Azerbaijan. You have Russia, which borders Azerbaijan. Why I am talking about this is, this could be a probable geography map based one, which is international relations dynamic part. So current affairs dynamic part, which can be asked as geography map based questions, that is the countries which are bordering Armenia, or the sea which is bordering Azerbaijan, Mediterranean Sea, Black Sea, Caspian Sea or Red Sea, it could be asked. So the one which is bordering or the coastal area of Azerbaijan is Caspian Sea. And definitely if you look at Armenia, it is having a defense alliance with Moscow, as we looked at military ties Moscow has with Armenia. And if you look at Azerbaijan is backed by Turkey, and Azerbaijan or Turkey has ethnic and cultural ties, and Azerbaijan supplies Turkey. Why Turkey is now supporting Azerbaijan? Because Azerbaijan, this country, supplies natural gas and crude oil to Turkey. It supplies natural gas and crude oil. Azerbaijan supplies to Turkey. So definitely there is an ethnic and cultural ties along with the economic ties between Azerbaijan and Turkey. And if you look at Nagorno or Karabakh fact file, if you look at, this region was granted autonomy within the Republic of Azerbaijan. So this disputed one, which the entire scenario, the fighting is taking place between Azerbaijan and Armenia, was, or it has been granted an autonomy within the Republic of Azerbaijan. within the Republic of Azerbaijan in Soviet times, and internationally it is recognized as part of Azerbaijan. Internationally also, the Nagorno Karabakh is part of, or it is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan. And later on we have seen in the year 1988 to 1994 war, Armenia seized control of territory of the surrounding areas of the autonomous region, which was granted by the Soviet in regards to that it will be part of the Republic of Azerbaijan. And now this, if you look at, this is a situation wherein we have looked at on September 27, 28 or onwards, the fighting is between the Armenia and Azerbaijan. So these are the areas which are in the entire fighting zones, and this shade is occupied by Armenia as we discussed, and the other one is by the Azerbaijan. So this is very important news for international relations, dynamic part, current affairs, and then geography map based. So we will recapitulate the DNA daily news analysis. So we have looked at the special CBI court which has pronounced the judgment in regards to Babri Masjid case, demolition of Babri Masjid case, which has taken place on December 6, 1992. And again in regards to the Union Health Ministry, which has spoken about the guidelines for the allowing the cinema halls and the theme parks, and we have also focused in regards to the aviation, air bubble scheme and Vande Bharat mission. These two are again crucial keywords for the prelims perspective of UPSC, and this NCRB report is crucial report for prelims as well as mains, that is in regards to the short notes, taking the statistics of the SC and STs crimes against and the women, rape of women also, particularly which state is top and then followed by. And then this again in regards to the international relations, Germany is not happy with the way China is treating onto the minorities, which is a poor and a cruel treatment, and also in regards to the dissenting the voice in Hong Kong, which was actually as per the deal, which is a former British colony, which will be given the autonomy, was promised but it is not. And this again in regards to the international relations, dynamic part, current affairs, geography map based prelims point of view. So we have focused this, and I hope this session was helpful, informative, and also a knowledgeable session to you all as a civil servant aspirant, to have a better, thorough and a comprehensive understanding about all the newspaper analysis which we have done it. So I would say a big thank you and a good luck to you all. And then before you sign off, do like the video, share the video, subscribe the video, and then also visit the AKS IAS Academy website and then subscribe the Telegram link of AKS IAS Academy, and I would come up with the DNA, that is daily news analysis, tomorrow at 7:30 AM. And I would say please do maintain consistency throughout your preparation, and then stick to your schedule of your preparation, and then do take care of your physical health and mental health throughout your preparation. And then see you tomorrow at 7:30 AM for the daily news analysis. Thank you very much.